Hello, everyone. It is me. I'm a nerd in politics, also known as Carlson Kaufman. And today, again, it's been a while since I've obviously made a political video, about a month. But we are 6 months away from this election, and I have to say, without a shadow of a doubt, the election is already over. As you've seen from previous videos that I've made, since January, or even up to this point, as I'm making this video right now, the election has been over. We all know that Joe Biden is unsustainable, can't do his job right. In fact, I would trust Gronk over Joe Biden, and he can't even read a teleprompter or read in general. But I trust that man more over. But I mean, Jesus, this election really hasn't changed a lot. But I always want to keep, I want to keep with the statistics. And as much as I don't believe a lot of the statistics, I'm just going off of them because they're predictions, they're not the real thing. So just going off of what 270towin.com says, it's a very more democratic website, but nowadays, what websites really can you trust? And I gotta say, I was actually hearing some news about RFK Jr. And I heard he actually got, like, 10 years ago, he had like a brain parasite of some sort, right? And it's, that's pretty surprising. Maybe that's why his voice is raspy. I have no idea. But what's even a greater question to me, something that just doesn't make sense. How is it that RFK Jr. suffers from a brain parasite, something that, not a lot of people live, and a lot of people, if they live, don't come out looking great or sounding great or anything? How is it that he comes out almost guaranteeingly perfect, yet Joe Biden, through more than 50 years of politics, still continues to look like he's gonna melt? Like he looks like he's gonna melt and die before we even get to the presidential election. I don't know how it's even possible. Um, Obviously, we still haven't figured out who Donald Trump is going to pick for vice president. He's I've been watching the Benny show, I think it's called. Um, it's just a hard recollection. I'm kind of having a Biden moment. Sorry, just kind of having a little bit of brain malfunction. And I was watching him, and Donald Trump has tweeted that he's kind of having a little competition for his um, vice presidents. Now, I have no idea who it is. I speculate, that the people that are most likely going to be vice president, to my understanding, should be either Tucker Carlson, uh, Ramaswamy, uh, Vivek, yeah. There was that woman who I would say no to because she shot her own dog. That's kind of, I kind of frown on that. Um, there's also Tim Scott. He's also really good. I think those are the top three people I'd have to choose from. Out of the three, I have no idea who's the best contender there could possibly be. I know Tucker Carlson has had a lot of, debates against Pence, and, basically throwing him out on the stage with nothing but a whine, I guess, something to whine about, because, Pence is just a traitor. He's just an absolute traitor to the Republican Party. And I'd say a lot of Republicans are a traitor to their own party. I'd say a lot of Democrats are a traitor to their own party. I'd say the whole thing is a giant scam. It's just a big scam. But, it's a scam that, unfortunately, you got to choose an option, or else government doesn't work. Government doesn't work without a scam and a way of how to do the scam. Anyhow, enough of me blabbering. Let's get on to what 270.com has to say. I'm going to start from the top and say from here, what I'm getting is that nationally, across all known polls so far, Donald Trump leads by a 0.8% advantage. I want to say that's a little bit higher than that. I want to say it's 2%, maybe even 2.5, and it could be even higher. But of course, the statistics that I'm providing show no trustworthiness than the ones that are probably fake anyways that are given to us. And moving on to Maryland. Maryland, we already know, is a Democratic founded state, has been for a long time, is leading for Joe Biden at 21%. I'd say almost guaranteed win for Joe Biden. In North Carolina, there's a 5.6% percentage rate for Trump, which I'd say is lenient. How I go about it, if it's above 10%, it leans Republican. If it goes over 15, it's guaranteed. And if it's below that, below, when it's to 5, I'd say it's like more lenient, I guess is the word for it. And anything below that, it's like, it's a battle. It's like a Star Wars battle for who's the best. In Arizona, we're seeing a 3.3% for Trump. So I'm going to put that kind of like, again, if you've seen any of my videos in the past, you would know that states like Arizona, states like Nevada, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, there's a list of states, but those are the main ones. And Georgia, maybe, we don't know. Because that state was a little bit controversial in the 2020 election when it was pretty much stolen from us. But the other states I just mentioned, those states are, whoever gets it, gets it. It's a game. It's a game of chess, and whoever makes the stupid move, who I would imagine is Biden, because he's not made a smart move in quite some time, even during his vice presidency under Obama. So we'll just see how that little chess match goes up. But Arizona is looking to be in the direction of Trump, so go with how that is. Also in Pennsylvania at 2.2% for Donald Trump. Also another game where it's like we got to fight hard like we did in 2016. And that I've talked about the blue wall states, which consist from Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Those are the what was called the blue wall states, only because these states were for a long time predominantly more Democrat. And over the years, we've seen that these states are fighting more for Republican sides. And, we saw in 2016 that he won basically all of these besides Illinois, and did it pretty well. And of course, the 2016 election was controversial as is. A woman for president was still a little bit like, I don't know if we can do it. As much as it could be done, it could have been done at any other time point. But in such a recent point in history, that wasn't a thing people were thinking about or considering. Not to be hurtful or judgmental, it's just something that came off as a shock. And at the end, the 2016 election was such a shock that many people didn't even want to choose a candidate. But they sure as hell weren't going to choose an independent candidate because, let's be honest, that was just a waste of time at that point. For whoever's in the Green Party, I can't remember her name, but God, she needs to step down. She's been running for as long as Bernie Sanders has tried to been running, and it's just got to stop. You got to stop. Anyhow, Utah is looking at a 28% for Donald Trump. I'd say almost guaranteed win. In Texas, we're looking at about 10%. So obviously that's what do I do? Lenient. That's a little bit low for Texas, but I understand it in a sense because a lot of Californians are moving to Texas, but a lot of Texans are moving to California, except for San Francisco. That's just an absolute nightmare on Elm Street, pretty much. That is literally, when you describe what a pile of shit is as a state, San Francisco matches that description perfectly because all it is now a pile of human shit. So, yeah. Georgia is also looking at a 4% for Donald Trump. That's another like state where it's like, in the 2020 election, it was very controversial at its time for, if it was taken from us or not. And, based on the statistics, I'd have to say it surely is, surely was, because people are stupid enough to use computers operated by mostly Democratic owners and websites and whatever to vote for the president instead of doing it in person like every person ought to do, because we've been doing it for, I don't know, a couple hundred years, the 200 years we've been around now. So it kind of makes sense that you do it traditionally, not newly. I don't know. Just me. Maybe it's just me. Currently in Michigan, we're seeing a 1.2% for Donald Trump. Again, another state where it's going to be another tough battle. And, I've been actually seeing this from a couple other, podcasters, like this one guy named Kirk, and he's with, it's called like US something. Again, Joe Biden moment. I'm sorry. I'm not. It's 12 a.m. and I'm recording this, and this is probably going to come out in about 8 hours, just as is, because my editing skills just lack in editing skills. Anyhow, I've been watching a couple of podcasters. I've been watching a couple of Republican YouTubers and entrepreneurs, and the Senate is flipping itself to being more Republican. It's a very close. It's like 51-49, like 51 Democrats, 49 Republicans. It's going to come down narrowly. Similarly to Congress, where they're probably going to have to run it over 300 different times until they choose which side's more better, right? That's kind of how we're looking at the things here. Next, 4%, 4.3% specifically in Nevada for Donald Trump. Just another thing here where it's like, it's going to be close. I think it is going to be more close. But it's already looking good for Trump because he's over 100, and Joe, I haven't seen anything for a little bit, but hush my mouth, because in Massachusetts we're looking at a 30% for Joe Biden. Now, it would not come to a shock to me at all that most of the East here is going to say pro-Biden, because they've said that with every Democratic president that's basically ever tried running, or every Democratic president that has ran and won, and every Democratic candidate who's ran and lost. Like, it's just over here, it's almost always Democratic. It tends to be that way. New Hampshire is just one of those flipping states. Like, I'll be a Republican this year. Of course, this year I'm seeking that they're not going to be. They're, if you had to put New Hampshire in a comparison, New Hampshire is like the Caitlyn Jenner of the states. Sometimes you look at the cover of Caitlyn Jenner and think, yeah, no, that's a Democratic state, and sometimes you're right. But if you get more in detail, sometimes, some years, every now and then, it's a Republican state, and a huge hypocrite too. If that's a good comparison, it's probably not, but what the hell. Massachusetts, yeah, so pretty good. New York, a lot more lower. New York, I'm putting as this. It's at a 10% for Joe Biden, which for how long New York's been Democratic for, is a big downer, I think, on the Democratic Party. Just completely, just like, not mind blowing, like, not mind numbing. It's just like a little bit shocking. It's just a little bit like, kind of gets you like, damn, maybe we could tell the East that they've been doing the wrong stuff for, I don't know, a couple decades, maybe a century. I don't know, but it kind of shocks me. In Florida, for Donald Trump, at a 9.3%, I'd have to say, Florida over the years, very Democratic. I've mentioned this as well. Someone tried to make a comment saying I'm wrong, but I'm just going off of memory. Sorry if you get pissed off, because I wasn't born in the year 2000 and you were, right? Like, whatever. But in the 2000 election between George W. Bush and Al Gore, Bush won. I think he only won Florida by maybe 1,000 voters. I said 100 in the last one, but that could be a little bit underestimated. It might be 1,000 or 2,000. It was really low, really low. Um, and of course, with Obama, uh, Florida was Democrat. Like, because if you put a gesture, if you put in an identification of who's in Florida, it's a bunch of goofy, weird people, goofy teenagers, fucking like goofy millennials and goofy people, and people that go to prison for the most outrageous stuff that just doesn't make sense. And then there's also old white people and there's African Americans. Like, it's kind of just a whatever, like, it's kind of a what the fuck state. Like, sometimes it's like, yeah, that's cool, but then sometimes you're like, what in God's name is even happening there? It's hard to describe. It's not like schizophrenia, but it's like maybe I do have schizophrenia. It's a weird state over there. It's a cool state, but it's a weird state. Anyhow, California, we're looking at 23% for Biden, which, what a shocker. California being a Democratic state. Hell, they should be more socialist if they really went for it. They should, because they suck. I'm sorry, California sucks. It's a beautiful place to go to, but it sucks. Tennessee for Donald Trump at 24%. A lot of the West, you'll notice, is pro Donald Trump. Shocker. Minnesota. Wow. Minnesota is at 2% for Biden. Yeah, I've been saying, I don't know, for the last couple of months, forever now, that Minnesota is a gamble state here. And, obviously, Minnesota hasn't been a Republican state since the mid 70s, I think around 1976. So it's been a long time. It's been an outrageous long time. But, that's just kind of mind blowing. For Joe Biden, also in Colorado, is leading at 10%. Pretty good. Also, that's not the right one. That's more likely the right one, yeah. So pretty cool. In New Jersey, it's at 7%, which a little bit more shocking. I'd say New Hampshire and New Jersey are kind of these like flipping states where it's like, maybe I should do the right thing, but maybe I don't feel like it. Maybe I just don't feel like it. So that's kind of one way to look at it. In Ohio, for Donald Trump, looking at 10.7% in the lead for him. Just another one of these, like, most likely going to take it over. In Alaska, we're looking at 12% for Trump. Not a shocker by any means. And actually, I'm going to put that there just because it's not over 15%. In Indiana, we're looking at 21% for Donald Trump. So, what a shocker. Montana, 21.5%. You'll notice a lot of the West is Republican. I was going to say Democrat. I'm stupid. Iowa is looking at 12%. Again, another one of these, I think guaranteed Republican after that primary I reacted to. My God, that was just, Donald Trump murdered Nikki Haley in that one, and Ron DeSantis and Vivek Ramaswamy and all of those just completely bodied, just completely bodied him. Probably not as bodied as much as Drake's situation, because that was pretty bad. In the state of Maine, not including the districts, it's looking that in first district of Maine, Joe Biden is at 8%, which not bad. I think most of the people live in here, so whatever. And then in the second district, we're looking at a District 2, that's right, 20%, which is pretty big. and the state of Maine itself at a 6%. So Maine could be a first for being Republican. I'm not saying it's going to, but there's a possibility. It's just kind of there. I'm going to put it at almost the bottom because, it's kind of hard to decide. South Carolina at a 16.5%. Just, I'd say almost guaranteed Republican state here. Washington, the state of Washington at 16%. Sorry, looking at the state. Oops. In Missouri, looking at 17% for Donald Trump. Pretty good. South Dakota at 29%. And then New Hampshire's at 8.3%. Again, one of those states that kind of always flips back and forth. And we'll not know the actual, numbers until election day in 6 months, but whatever. Virginia looking at 6%. Again, I think the West is just getting sick of Joe Biden's BS, and quite frankly, I am too. Shouldn't the rest of the world? Donald Trump, 53% in Wyoming. I think that's the biggest lead for any state ever right now. Obviously, I don't think RFK is going to commit to getting any states here. The only ones you'd be able to maybe get a hand of is Massachusetts or Utah. That's kind of his top contenders, but he's just there kind of because it's cool, not because he's going to win, because he's not. Arkansas is at 33% for Donald Trump. Illinois, Biden is leading under 10% at 9%. A little bit shocking, but, the current climate of the world, the way of how the world is working, doesn't really shock me all at the end. In North Dakota, we're looking at 37% for Donald Trump. In Nebraska, doesn't say by district, but I know in the state, I'd say almost guaranteed Donald Trump. In the first district, I'd say more lenient, I guess. I'd say, put that leaning. And for the first district, I'd probably put Joe Biden, or second district, sorry. God, I hate recording at night. I'd say probably more Democratic, but overall Nebraska is more of a win for Donald Trump here. West Virginia at 36% for Donald Trump. Shocker. Kansas, 16% for Donald Trump. Pretty good. Pretty good. Idaho, 29% for Donald Trump. Oklahoma, 28% for Donald Trump. Kentucky, 29% for Donald Trump. New Mexico, 8% for New Mexico. Also pretty low, but, we won't know the actual results until whenever. The only states that haven't been talked about is Wisconsin, Louisiana, Hawaii, Oregon, Mississippi, Alabama, Delaware, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Vermont, and DC. But should I say that DC is most likely going to be Democrat? Hello. Hawaii, I'd almost say, is also most likely going to be Democrat. Just is. Oregon, I'd say also most likely going to be Democrat. Vermont, I'd say Democrat as well, guaranteed. Connecticut, I'd say most likely. Rhode Island, I'd say most likely. Delaware, the home state of Biden, almost guaranteed. And here, I'd say Alabama, guaranteed Republican. Mississippi, guaranteed Republican. Louisiana, more than likely Republican. That are, we already have over 270, woo! Nothing's really changed, though, since the last video I made, of course. And Wisconsin, another state where it's, going to come down real close to, who could win it, who could do it. And I'd still think, based off the stats, it's going to be a race. These three states are such a competitor in race. Although he could probably lose two of the states and still win with all the rest that he will most likely have a tangible to him. But based off that, that is the stats that I have right now, and what I'm going off of course, as you've seen nothing change before. But if you did enjoy, please like and subscribe. We're almost at 100 subs. That's pretty cool. But until then, I'll probably have other videos out in the future. I'm trying to still get my project out. I don't know when that'll come out. It's a huge project. But until then, I'll see you all in the next political video.